You're listening to Raiding the Fringe with Poda, Ostinius, Nepids, and Dr. Lee. From ancient civilizations to the cutting edge of science, from exploring the outer reaches of space to the Atlantean depths, we discuss the topics of the unknown and the possibilities of the bizarre. Are you hungry to expand your horizons? Come get your fill as we raid the fringe.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in once again. We have a very special episode because of the coronavirus quarantine. We're all broadcasting remotely. I'm your host this time, Dr. Lee, and with me, as always, though remotely, is Poda.
What's up?
Nepitz.
How you doing?
And Ostinius.
Hola.
And today, since we're all from our separate houses because of this pandemic, we're going to call this episode about pandemics. And we need to talk about the influences of this. There's lots of implications over science fiction, lots of movies that have dealt with this very topic. And now we seem to be living in a, although slightly less lethal version, it's still a pandemic. And we can actually see real life results of what happens when an outbreak occurs and how people are reacting to it.
Very, very true. People have been definitely reacting to this whole thing.
So when you first, because the idea of a pandemic spreading across, killing people and the world going to shit, that idea has been going out for a long time. I'm going to start with you, Poda. The first time that you were introduced to this concept, whether it was like through the movie Contagion or whatever, how did you think it was going to go down versus how it really happened?
Terrifying. The idea of a pandemic and a viral outbreak, it's something I can't punch and kill on my own, but it can take me out. Very scary. There's no stopping biologics, really. Just trying to contain or switch around. As for hearing the stories for the first time, there was a few that I didn't think were plausible. Like the whole zombie outbreak thing, that's a very specific type of mutation. I mean, we only have one thing that's known about that, and I think it has to do with ants and a fungi closely related that makes the ants climb up a tree and die, and then the fungus grows out of their head.
And the spores shoot out.
Yeah, and fungus and slime is also kind of scary when you really think about it on a scale of what they can do.
But as far as not just the idea of the virus itself, but just it's become evident that we have to deal not just with a virus, but with other people dealing with the virus.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's been the biggest issue. That's actually one of the things that I really, really loved about the Walking Dead initially. Now, if you watch the shows, past season 6 or something like that, it just gets repetitive and ridiculous. But the biggest issue recurrent throughout is not the issue with the zombies who actually have the disease or whatever, but it's with the people and how the people react to what's going on around them. And people have this tendency to blow things to a crazy proportion.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how bad it really is. It's how bad everyone thinks it is that makes it bad.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the funny things that I saw, this stupid meme joke or whatever, was, it's the coronavirus. It is an upper respiratory disease. So why is everybody buying up toilet paper? Well, it's because, you're in a room of 10 guys, one person sneezes, the other 9 shit their pants.
That is definitely a resource that I never thought in a panic time of crisis would be fought over.
The whole thing came down because one store happened to run out of toilet paper for an unrelated cause. And it started the whole thing. Everyone said, oh, well, they ran out. That must be the thing you need.
Well, I'll add that to the list when there's a storm or anything going down.
Now, initially, I think that they said that the coronavirus or COVID-19, whatever the hell, was spread through fecal matter. And because of that, some connection was made that people need to buy the shit out of toilet paper because it's spread by poop instead of washing your fucking hands so you don't wipe poop on other people.
Yeah, that's gross.
I mean, the truth of the matter, man. How do you think fecal happens? Fecal matter.
Farting on pillows. I mean.
It's like the age-old question. It depends on whether you wipe with your left hand or your right. You know.
And then,
it's also the age-old question: do you wipe front to back or back to front?
Well,
which one is better? Do you want shit running up your back, or you want shitty balls?
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean the social structure of who uses what hand when for camaraderie or interaction.
Oh,
I heard about with.
Just for the record, I use toilet paper.
That's good. That's good.
You don't use your left or your right.
Well, with the bodily contact, I mean, when it comes to spreading of a pandemic virus or outbreak like that, I heard someone ask, why did Italy get hit so hard? And I was like, well, given the idea of contact-to-contact transmission, that's a very bicultural, a very touchy-feely kind of culture. A lot of hugs, a lot of kissing, a lot of touching.
Well, and you think about it, like they have the highest death rate, even though we have surpassed them in the number of cases and whatnot. But they have the highest death rate still. And if you think about it, I mean, old Italy, like there's a bunch of people that have been there for generations, and the old are more susceptible to getting the harsher effects of it all. So, of course, a lot of people are dying because there's a lot of old people there. You know, you also got to think that, you know, with sea levels rising and stuff, the city of Venice is flooded on a regular basis now. Like their sea level isn't just restricted to the canals. It's rising up, and throughout all that water, it can carry other contagions and things of that nature as well. So there may be pre-consisting conditions that are more prevalent in Italy, which is, for all intents and purposes, peninsula, you know, that could cause more problems along higher coastline. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's, when it comes to this kind of topic, the transmission of whatever it is probably what freaks me out the most. Contact's one thing. My antisocial skills are pretty strong. I don't really interact with a lot of people, so I'm not so worried about that. But people coughing and sneezing on things that are touched by a lot of people, door handles throughout, or fountain pop machines, I'm very thankful that it's not airborne, because then that's a whole different ball game.
Well, now it has mutated to a point where it is airborne now, and it's airborne for 30 to 45 minutes in any particular place. That's why you see people wearing these masks and stuff now. Luckily, you know, with a 2-liter and a couple of 20-ounce bottles of Coke and some toilet paper, you can make a pretty good gas mask that'll kind of protect it. Give it to your face.
Well, it's still not considered airborne because it's through the mist of saliva and stuff in the air. So thankfully, it's not truly airborne.
But if somebody sneezes and you walk through that cloud, they have it, you have it. Like, it didn't need to be transmitted directly by you handshaking them or kissing them, but even if you're in a Walmart and you're walking down an aisle, somebody sneezed by the mustard, you're walking through to look at the ketchup, within a half an hour to 45 minutes, you're fucked. Like, you got it. I mean, it is what it is.
Those people that crop dust need to really cut that shit out.
It sounds like you're saying that from some experience there, Pona. With your height, crop dusting becomes quite a danger.
Yeah, at least, you know, you've only got 10% of sneezes reach up to your level anyway. As long as you wash below your belly button, you're safe.
How's the weather up there, non-corona? Non-corona.
Oh, jeez.
But the unbiased attitude of a viral attack, I think that's also scary, because it will take out law enforcement, firefighters, doctors. Like, I mean,
that's
the people that we need to help keep things going on the bigger scale. It's hitting them too. hardcore.
Well, it's especially hitting them. First responders, people of that nature, all these guys, it's kind of their golden hour. I mean, they are the ones that are the most exposed to all of this, and it really sucks that whatever spatial quarantines are put in place, they are an essential commodity, so they are still forced to be exposed if they want to make a paycheck. It really sucks, especially since they're not getting any sort of hazard pay or any sort of, extra benefit for just doing their job. And man, that's really rough.
It's the same thing for custodians. Part-time, I clean hospital buildings. My job is not slowed down whatsoever, and I've got extra, not only am I in those rooms and exposed to them, and I'm not, seeing patients, I'm there cleaning afterwards. And so nothing slacked for me either. And now I have to be extra careful. And, I've got extra Virex and I'm spraying everything down. I'm like a 6-shooter. I've got a spray bottle on each hip. But,
do you wear a hazmat suit? Is it like Outbreak where like there's a little rip in your suit and you're like, oh no.
That would be so much fun for about 15 minutes. And then I'd be sick of wearing that suit. So I'm glad it's not the case. Not just the emergency first responders, though. A lot of people have been impacted by this, by still being out there and having to work and dealing with these things.
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, for shit's sake, there's still people working at Taco Bell and fast food restaurants serving food to people that are... What's the point of a quarantine? I don't know if you guys have driven anywhere, but fucking traffic isn't very different at all.
I don't know. It feels a lot lighter, but it's definitely not stopped, and no one's going to stop going out. If this was an 80% fatality virus, a lot more people would be dying because they're still being stupid about it.
Yeah, that's true.
The quarantine, unless issued by a governor or a state right now, or straight up by the president for the entire country, the doomsday preppers, conspiracy theorists, whatever group you want to support, really, militia, I don't know. But the martial law aspect, if the quarantine has to get so serious because people are taking it so lax and they're continually spreading it, to actually slow it down and quell it, there's going to have to be a reinforcement, an actual enforcement with soldiers to keep people coming and going so much, and probably have to have some kind of hall pass to go across the street if you need to go to the store or something.
But then the soldiers will just spread it.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they would have the proper equipment wearing them for the job they're on, though.
Well, they've spoken about enforcing the National Guard to break up big gatherings or some such. I mean, I haven't seen that myself, but they've spoken about it.
I don't know how bad it can get to that point, though, because we are such a spoiled society that they have deemed that restaurants are a necessity to leave open. You got the panic shoppers bought out all the food, and my last time going into a store, they bought all the milk and all the fruit and all the healthy stuff, and all that was left on the shelves was pop and chips. So all you got left is pop and chips and drive-thrus, and the gyms are closed, so you can't go work out.
That begs the question, though. We're talking about America. In a lot of other countries, since we have surpassed the number of cases and everything as far as exposure to this whole virus thing, it begs the question, a lot of this has been left up to commercialized owners of restaurants. So they're talking about shutting us down, but they want to make their money. But because we are not capitalist or we are not socialist or whatever, and the government just hands out money to people that easily, could that be a factor in us not wanting to close those places? The owner of Olive Garden still wants to do takeout because they still need to make their fucking money, and they're going to do whatever they can to still stay as rich as they can.
Yep, that's what it all boils down to.
And that's the other big topic, is the economy, and what is it? Just the economy, basically. Are we going to be able to bounce back from it? Are we going to be in a recession, or is there going to be a huge boom of influx of money that everyone's been hoarding to keep things going and get going again?
Well, nobody can work, so nobody's been hoarding money because nobody's been able to get paid because they haven't been working. And that's part of the big issue. There's going to be a big recession about this, and it's ridiculous, especially since we're taking it a little bit overboard. I mean, 2002, West Nile virus. 2004, SARS. SARS was a differential from the common cold, and you know what? Some chicken soup and drinking some NyQuil and getting over it, you got better.
If I'm not mistaken,
This is very much like the flu.
If I'm not mistaken, SARS was another version of a coronavirus,
But it's
so was
very
MERS.
similar. The end of the world, but nobody took it nearly as seriously. Things weren't as crazy as they are now. The media has overhyped it, and I think part of the problem is just how the general populace has handled it, adversely now to when it was then.
It wouldn't have had to gotten to this point where we were all feel like we're stuck in our houses if people would just behave responsibly in the first place. Cover your damn mouth when you sneeze, quit licking strangers' asses. I don't know. But the people don't behave properly.
People nowadays are like licking toilets and licking handles because, like, I'm not worried about COVID-19. Like, there's.
Oh, you're quite a rebel over there. That's gross. I really don't. I don't support that at all. Like, no.
Okay, well, from someone who's been pretty quiet the whole time, Nat, do you have anything to add?
On what basis? Or on the basis of, is this an actual issue that warrants this kind of attention? I believe so. The reason I believe it's different than the diseases that you were talking about before is the way it's transmitted.
How so?
That the sneak factor in the whole aspect, that you don't know that you have it until 7 days later.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the whole uproar. That's the reason why literally 1,000 people in 24-hour periods are dying in other places. Like, this is a real thing, and the desensitization episode would be great for this because people don't care. They're desensitized. Even the president is desensitized, saying that the old people would be great or happy to kill themselves for the economy. You know what I mean? We are such a desensitized nation on anything, or even the world, because even Italians are doing the same thing. They until it got real bad. In Spain, they've had nursing homes completely abandoned with dead people in their beds and old people to survive for themselves. Some of them were so malnourished they were starving. You know who they were found by? The military. This is a big deal. So I can understand why some people are freaking out. What I don't understand is the people not listening to trying to curve this out, because, I mean, unlike you guys, I actually have something to be worried about because, I've had recent surgeries. I have some, pre-existing conditions. So this could actually kill me. And so, yeah, like, you know what I mean?
So I don't think it was desensitization that has hurt, especially the way the U.S. has been responding, so much as it is selfishness and thoughtlessness of others. And it's proof not just in the way people are behaving, but, you hear about the spring breakers who are saying, like, it's not going to stop me from partying. Well, it's not about you getting sick. It's about you not knowing you have it and then giving it to grandma. And more of that same attitude has been shown through with the panic buyers. You have enough damn food in your house. Buying 10 gallons of milk is not going to make you healthier. It's not going to make you safer. It's going to make 8 gallons spoil in your fridge while 8 other people don't get it. And you don't care. You're being selfish.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's something that's always bothered me. You're never going to use 10 loaves of bread in a couple of weeks of this little quarantine thing, but people will just hoard it and pack load it. And what good is that doing anybody? You're depriving other people of an essential need.
All of us have been able to go to the store, buy our food, and eat. Everything's been fine. The buying of extra, you have already proven to yourself that you don't need to do.
Yeah.
You're only buying it because you expect it to be sold out soon. I'm not going to be able to have it, so I better get a whole bunch. And that itself creates the lack. And if nobody reacted like that, then everything would have been fine.
Agreed. But that's one of the things that I'm talking about with those previous... I mean, this is a different illness than other things. It is. But with those previous scares, there was never anything like this. This has been taken a little bit
unique.
Yeah, Like they haven't shut down sports and like shut down businesses and done things for an extended period of time in our lifetimes. I mean, really, any of us in our lifetimes. And this is kind of unprecedented. Like it's pretty wacky.
Altogether, it's not unprecedented. Actually, 100 years ago, almost to the year, there was an outbreak almost this big, and it shut a lot of the world down.
You're talking about typhoid fever?
Actually, it was called the flu of 1918.
Well, the reason is still the way this is spread. Those other diseases that you say are, this is unprecedented. You actually had to be in pretty close contact with those people.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and there hasn't been, the only other disease that is a pandemic as of right now is AIDS. AIDS is the only other pandemic. So
no, it's not.
That's what they said.
No, Ebola is still out. MERS is still out. SARS is still out.
Is it considered a pandemic as of right now? The spread of from what I gathered, from what I've read, I didn't know. Maybe I got that wrong.
Well,
but
they're not on the acceleration of the curve anymore, but it's still worldwide, and they're still dealing with it.
But I'm just saying, the acceleration of this across the world and how much it has killed in such a short amount of time. And with the fact that it could actually be a seasonal disease is just crazy. You know what I mean? I just don't like that people don't take it seriously, because this is a serious thing. It's just crazy. That's my thing. Is that people are just like, especially younger people. I mean, there was a 14-year-old girl that died in America. You know what I mean? So yeah, it can still kill. I mean, like that's the youngest it's killed. There hasn't been any lower than 13, I think. But still, it can kill from anywhere from teenage to elderly. Now, granted, the elderly is more. I'm just saying it's a big deal, and I think a lot of Americans are Facebook making it like, oh, I'm cool and stuff like this, but they're just going out and doing things like in the park, like what you said.
People aren't making it serious. They're making jokes by saying, hey, I've got coronavirus, so maybe I should date somebody with Lyme disease. And like stupid jokes like that. I totally agree. People aren't taking it as serious as they should, but I also don't think it's as it isn't like the bubonic plague, where as soon as you have it, you're dead. You know what I mean? And a lot of people have that stigma. Like I made the stupid joke about 1 in 10, the guy sneezes and the other 9 shit their pants. That is actually how it is. I mean, when I came back from Myrtle Beach after getting married is when this whole thing first started. And guess what? I went from one, set of circumstances to another in a quick amount of time, and you get a sinus infection. So yeah, I coughed and I sneezed and my voice was hoarse for a while. And with all this brewing up, it made me feel ostracized. I would cough and people would look at me and be afraid that I had coronavirus. And that is going a little crazy to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's something else to worry about too, is you could be sick with anything else. But because of this being in the forefront of everyone's thought, now all of a sudden, every sneeze, every cough, you could have it. You could be not only dying, you could be giving it to everyone else. And so, although we would argue that a lot of people aren't taking it seriously, that argument is saying that a lot of people take it too far, and they're taking it too seriously. And that kind of overreaction helps feed those people who want to underreact. They're like, oh, well, he's worrying enough for 10 people, so I'm not going to worry about it. And that doesn't help anything either.
Yeah, true enough.
There's also another human aspect, I guess you could discuss, would be with people being stuck at home or children not being able to go to school, but they still have the e-learning thing for the education, which is good, but on the aspect of what about abusive homes or abusive relationships and stuff like that. Now they're literally stuck at home in that situation every day.
Oh, yeah, that sucks.
That's actually, I never thought about that. That's super true. That would be nightmarish. I mean, it's bad enough that even just missing school, if a kid didn't have access to be able to do these e-learning days or whatever, even though they've been an A student all throughout the year, this last part, they could fail their grade just because they didn't have access to do the at-home shit.
Oh, because they're used to learning in a certain environment, and then now that environment's been pulled out from under them.
Yeah.
And so kids that would do well in a school and don't do well on the e-learning, this is going to totally affect them. I'm sure you've got the view, though, that it goes the other way around, too, though, that they'll do better now that they can do e-learning.
Well, and truth be told, I mean, okay, I don't like organized sports. Don't like sports. I hate them. But there are people who work their whole lives to make it to the NBA or whatever. And so these kids that have been really working their asses off and training super hard. And I mean, we're also looking at coming into the Summer Olympics. People who've worked their whole lives to be able to compete in these things have no chance now. So they've wasted their lives. That kind of sucks.
I completely forgot about the Olympics this year.
Yeah, they're supposed to be in Japan.
Oh, that would have been cool. Well, I guess it still could be, eventually.
Just be postponed like everything else. They're working on a cure. I hear they've got a vaccine that should be ready in a few weeks. Over in Israel, they've been working on one. And so that's underway. The problem with this virus, not only is the sneakiness for it spreading so fast, but it is still a novel virus. It only, we first got it from a bat at the end of 2019. And so we're still within a couple of months of just discovering this strain of coronavirus, and they haven't been able to work out that vaccine yet. Once they do and get things under control, then even though the curve won't be gone, we'll have the ability to be vaccinated from it. Like the bubonic plague, that did so bad because there weren't even vaccines back then, but now it can be cured easily. It's not even an issue, and that will be the case with this eventually once our dedicated scientists find their way to making that vaccine.
True enough. I originally, when this first started coming out, I did say a lot of stuff about the West Nile virus and SARS and, all that kind of stuff, avian flu, swine flu, wondering how long would it take it for people to forget this. But now, with all this quarantine stuff, this is going to be one of those, we are living a moment in history, boys.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be something that people will remember for a while because of how serious it was and having shut things down.
This could go one of two ways. Yeah, you're going to talk to your grandchildren, and either you're going to say, you think this was bad? I lived through the quarantine of 2020. Or this is a new trend, and we will see more viruses this bad pop up more often. Viruses on this scale have often been nature's way of population control, and we're thwarting that.
So what about the aspect of, hear me out, guys, even divinely, the flood, the plagues, things like that? What's to say this isn't a culling of the herd? I mean, we've had a population problem for quite a while, and it hasn't been any easier. We're talking climate change, things that affected the natural course of the earth because of human density. This ends up hurting more people than it...
At the risk of sounding psychopathic, which I'm not, I would have to say that, yes, these things are for culling the population. It's sad when you know someone who died, but we need something because we're not doing it ourselves. Things are getting worse, and diseases like this are not only because of overpopulation, but they are also nature's solution to overpopulation. And we've just gotten so good at meddling with that we're going to knock this virus out like we have other things, and we're going to continue to overpopulate and crowd ourselves out. But I think because of this very thing, we are going to see more of these viruses, and this is going to happen more often because, you can't fight Mother Nature. It fights back, and it fights hard.
Now, do you believe that it's going to be things similar to that, or it's going to be over media-sized so that it's not actually like shark attacks? It's not higher or lower than other years, but it's more populated throughout the media, so people are more aware. So we may not have more pandemics, just like the like tsunamis and earthquakes. Those could be getting worse, and those also wipe people out. Would it be along those lines, or?
I see your point, and I think what will happen is now I'm going to cross over into the topic of desensitization, because I think the media is going to blow up first, like it did for this one, and every little thing for the next few years is going to be huge because of this, and they're going to say, "Oh no, it's another COVID-19! Oh no!" And it'll get to the point where we start ignoring those people, and the problem is still going to get worse. And so it will result in us not handling it as well as we could. And I think that, I'm not going to say it's the end of days, because, maybe 1,000 more years, 2,000 more years, but it's getting worse, and it won't get better, not at the way we're going.
And on that topic of, you use the word divinity, it is interesting to think about when it comes to worship of idols and false deities, or whatever they're calling the specific, just idolatry in general. Like people who completely idolize musicians or sports athletes and stuff like that, and they deem them demigods, and they completely devote their lives to their mentality and their perpetuation of themselves and how they do things. And in scripture, when people were turning their worship or their focus from the divine, he would bring it back through natural means that we really can't combat. Like, we think we're high and mighty, and our entire social structure has been upheaved and almost completely turned over a virus that we didn't expect or plan for, that is decimate, a lot of lives.
So you're adhering to the theory that this virus could definitely, possibly be divine sent.
Yes, because we've been talking mainly scientific. I was bringing in a spiritual aspect on the topic of theories.
Well, that's why I was. Yeah. We have been idolizing things inappropriately, and this could be, in that spectrum, a learning tool. Like the nun slapping you with the yardstick. Whoosh.
Okay, I want to go a little left of center on this one. Because I think if you need someone to stop biting their nails, you don't kick them in the knee. It's if this virus is being sent as a punishment or a lesson or whatever, I don't think it would be over idolatry so much as just a lesson on our own hubris, on our own sensationalizing of trivial matters. This would be a lesson of us.
A lesson in humility.
Yeah, a lesson in humility, not idolatry, because this would have nothing to do with us thinking that Madonna used to be hot shit or whatever. This is more of a fact of, you think with
we're on
Facebook,
top of the world.
With the social medias, you want to blow everything out and not take it seriously at the same time. You are being so superficial with your concern and not actually caring. Here's something you should actually care about. Let's watch you fail.
Yeah. No, I could dig that.
Back on, I guess, on the same topic of scientific and spiritual at the same time, because whether you have the evolutionary standpoint of origin of life or the intelligent design, just viruses themselves, they freak me out. But just like slime and fungus, they fascinate me in the sense of how they work biologically and chemically, and how hardy they are and what they do. And they're very simple, but for what they are, very strong.
Yeah.
And with like viruses, how they can adapt so quickly and change to new environments, like with mutations, with the contamination or going airborne blood or this or whatever, or it can completely change into something else and wipe out every tree for some reason.
Well, it's not that viruses are strong. Antibodies will still kill viruses, most of the time. It's the fact that they are so rapid with their reproduction that even though they die a lot, they overwhelm you they make up for it with quantity. And because they reproduce so much and so fast, they evolve faster than the rest of us because they go through more generations in a shorter period of time.
Yeah, I was going to say, left unchecked, left to their own devices, they're terrible.
Yeah, we've been able to thwart a lot of these strains because of the vaccines that we have and the practices. And so even though, their offspring, as it were, the new viruses that come out, they get killed off. And so it proves to the virus evolution that path didn't work. And so it finds something new to get us with. And that's when we get the COVID-19 and stuff. It's because it's the ones that we haven't been vaccinated for, the ones we hadn't prepared for. This wasn't even a human virus until last year. It was in animals only originally. And so the resilience of the virus itself is because of its own evolution and how fast it can evolve.
Does humanity on a whole keep track of all the viruses, even if they stay within plants and animals? Shouldn't we be tracking them to know the possibilities of mutations?
We do, we do keep track of a lot of them, of known ones. Obviously, we're not going to be able to keep track of everything, but there's no real way to predict how it'll mutate. We're not that advanced yet.
Yeah, something that can affect an apple tree. Who would say, because our DNA is not close to an apple tree, there could be just one twitch of evolution between the two, and now for some reason this guy ate an apple and he's got this tree disease or whatever. There's no way to say how it could mutate or anything in the possible futures. But even still, we do track a lot of that. We do track known plant diseases to know how to fight against them and stuff like that. But the little switch of an evolutionary thing, even just to hop, even a monkey to a human, there's no guessing when it could happen or what may happen.
Yeah, who knows who's going to fuck that monkey?
Habib loves fucking goats. Who knew this one day?
All right, I'm going to take the reins on this again for a minute as we close up. I'd like to give each of us a chance to say something that you think we could do, either for this pandemic or for the next one that may come up, things that you personally would say are important to keep in mind for your safety, for survival, for however you want to take it. But we'll start with you, Poda. What would be your advice if you're giving it to yourself for the next pandemic as it starts? Give yourself a statement.
Gather all information that you can. Be cautious. Don't overreact. Stay calm so you can think clearly in the situation. Take into account the simple things of hygiene, because that does play a big part of it. I wouldn't specifically say cut people out of your life. Stay in contact, because a group is more helpful than a single person. And just look after each other. Give a damn, really. Don't take advantage of people. We are all humans, damn it. So you know what? That's important. You should hold on to that. Don't fuck over everybody you come across, because in the long run, you're going to need help. And whether you're willing to ask for it or not, that person that you may have dicked over may decide of their own volition not to help you this one time.
Awesome. All right, Nepis, I'm going to give it your turn. Considering this pandemic and the next, go ahead and give yourself a little moment to say what you think you need to tell the people to think about.
Tell the people to think about. So I'm not talking to myself, now I'm talking to the people.
You can talk to yourself. It should be advice that works for you. It should be advice
as long as you take, common sense into account and understand what's happening and understand with information, then it should be all right. And again, and my view on all this is, if I get it, I get it. It is what it is. It's one of those things where I believe that I'm more along the lines of, I'm Christian, so I pray. And so I pray that, protection over my family and my friends and stuff like that. Am I saying that that's going to make it so we don't get it? No, I could get it. That doesn't stop. I'm just saying that I use the whole religious aspect because I believe my God is in control of all this. I believe that, I just believe that. So, you know what I mean? So I take a religious aspect of it. That's my thing. So just pray, be mindful, and get as much information as you can out of it.
All right. And now it's your turn, Ostinius.
Well, obviously, proper information is always good. Search that out. Proper hygiene is also always good. Keeping yourself in a good health minimizes any sort of ultimate risk, from any sort of bacterial or viral infection from the get off. So things like that are important. Keep your nails clipped. keep your beard short. limiting. I with POTA, humans are a social animal. There's no way that we can live without other humans. So, even taking the initiative to be that person, even if, a lot of people see these people with the face masks and think that, they're paranoid about getting people sick. Some of these people are the sick ones, and they're preventing other people from getting sick by wearing these masks. And doing something like that is good too. If you know that you're sick, you should be the one wearing gloves or wearing a mask if you're going out in public, so you make sure that you do not spread this thing that you have. That's all very important. And then from the objective of NEP, I believe there was a wise man that once said, be awesome to each other and party on, dudes. And that's myself.
All right. And then for myself, I would say gather all the true information you can. Don't let Facebook be your source of news. Go to the CDC if you're worried about a disease. If it's about something else, go to the official websites and don't always trust the media. Check your sources. As far as personal behavior goes, don't be so selfish. Don't think of yourself. Think of that person, whoever that other person is, whether it's someone shopping next to you, whether it's the person who's going to come after you in the bathroom. If you're not just thinking of yourself, but thinking of how what you do impacts the other people around you, then I think everything should fall into place as far as we'll see better results and better outcomes. If we're all a little bit more considerate of how we're impacting other people. It's not just whether I get sick, it's whether I can make someone else sick. It's not whether I'm sick or they're sick. It's, am I being a dick to the next person because, I decided to shit on top of the toilet. From one thing to another, it all boils down to is we are social animals. You cannot live by yourself. You cannot... would you live in this cabin alone for 30 days for $1 million? And no, you wouldn't. You would want to, and then in 15 days, you'd break your promise and leave. And just keep in mind that there are other people out there. There will always be other people out there. And if we're all mindful of each other, then overall, I think all the outcomes can be better.
Well said. Here.
Indeed. And don't take first responders for granted, be it the military, fire department, police department, healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses. They really put forth an effort and put themselves in harm's way every day they go to work.
Here.
Don't take it for granted.
And I also want to add, don't take for granted the low jobs, the fast food workers and the janitors
Yes.
and the trash men.
Yes.
The people collecting our trash. I mean, if we're going to get sick, our sick is going into that trash, and they are dealing with that trash in a trash situation. I feel for them, too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody who is of use. Well, that sounds bad now that I say that out loud.
Everyone's of use, but how dare you?
But
a person's a person, no matter how small.
Yes. Everyone serves a purpose.
But yeah, so... I think we are at a good time. We should wrap up this call. Thank you, everyone, for joining me remotely. And we'll see through to the end of this. And God willing, science willing, however angle we want to say it, we'll all be here for next week's episode. Thanks for listening. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. If you have any thoughts or questions on today's topic, please feel free to leave a comment. Or if you'd like to contact us directly with any feedback or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at ratingthefringe@brainforger.com. Be sure to like, follow, and or subscribe. And for any future episodes, tune in to Facebook, Spotify, Libsyn, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. We look forward to you joining us next time as we raid the fringe.